Welcome to Monday Morning Musings, a series of conversations with some really amazing female lawyers. And today I'm joined by Sarah Leung. Sarah, hello, how are you?
Hi Ingrid, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. I'm good, thank you, for a Monday. So Sarah, thanks so much for doing this. This is a sort of a conversation about the year we're having. We're recording this in September. It's been quite a year so far. So it's an opportunity to press pause, gather our thoughts, and just talk about our experiences, or your experiences of this year. But before we jump into that, it'd be great if you could just say a little bit about who you are, what your journey's been, and anything else you'd like to share about yourself.
Sure.
And probably we should start by saying where you are right now, because you and I are from opposite sides of the world.
That's right. So I'm Sarah Leung. I'm based in Seattle, Washington, where it is extraordinarily smoky outside. We have unprecedented is the word of the year, I think. We have wildfires all around us in Washington, Oregon, California. No rain, not much wind. And so we're all being advised to stay indoors and stay safe and healthy if we can. So that's an interesting twist as of the last week or so. We haven't seen direct sunlight just because of the extraordinary smoke that's settled over the city. So,
wow.
Yeah, so it's a very unusual, somewhat eerie time. So it's morning here in Seattle. And it looks, if you use your imagination, you can imagine that it's just a very foggy fall morning, but it's not actually fog.
Wow.
But I am the general counsel at a company called Aristocrat Digital, which is a division of Aristocrat Leisure. We are the video game arm of Aristocrat, and we have video game businesses, one in Seattle and Oakland called Big Fish Games, one in London called Product Madness, and one in Tel Aviv, Israel called Plarium.
Wow.
And I've been practicing for 19 years, I think. Started at a law firm.
Too much.
Okay, we'll erase that part. No, I'm just kidding.
You're very experienced.
It's been a while. It's been a while. And I've got two kids, 8 and 13. And during this time of coronavirus, it's been lots of sort of amazing moments since we're all together in the house, and lots of struggle as well, figuring out how to continue to support my clients as well as support them, since we're all together all the time.
Yeah, no, I think that experience is going to resonate with a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And so if you think about 2020 so far and picture yourself looking back on the year that's been, what do you think is going to stand out for you?
I think what really stands out for me the most from a working perspective is the fact that you and I are both in industries where we're incredibly lucky to be able to successfully continue to do what we do remotely for the most part. And so being able to stay employed, because that hasn't been the case for millions of people, stay healthy in our houses, have groceries delivered if needed. That's really one of the main takeaways for me, is just feeling really grateful that I happen to be in an industry where we can work remotely, we can connect through technology. I know that we spend a lot of time cursing technology, but whether it's Zoom or Teams or whatever the method is that you use to connect with your people, the fact that we're able to continue to do that while we're physically separate has been pretty amazing.
Wow. Huh. So how wonderful to sort of hear you have this really sort of positive response to all this disruption and uncertainty. And interestingly, you've talked about continuity and the fact that you've been able to continue so many things that you were doing and the way you would, I guess, operate. Do you see changes that have occurred? You talked about means of communication and so on. Do certain things feel very different? Do you think things will stay different? How do you view that side of things?
Yeah, those are all great questions. So I think optimism is really the key to surviving 2020. So that's not to say there haven't been lots of disturbing occurrences, right? We have a global pandemic. In the United States, we have the Black Lives Matter movement, which is an amazing moment in time. We have murder hornets in the Pacific Northwest. I don't know if you've heard of those. Those are giant.
Story about.
They are giant hornets that apparently have killed about 50 people so far in Japan. They came over somehow and are now in the Northwest and the West Coast of the U.S. So that was a moment of minor panic here as well. And then now we have the wildfires. But I do think, you know, for those of us who are lucky enough to be in positions where we can continue to do what we love to do, despite all of it, optimism is definitely the key. You asked about what has changed and what I think might change into the future. I think that being sort of more open about the reality as working parents of having children and balancing all of this, and people seeing each other's children running around behind them or asking for a snack in the middle of an important meeting.
Or sometimes naked.
Or sometimes naked has actually been a really good thing, because I think one of the things that I've always found in terms of building really effective working relationships as a counselor, right? Because a lot of the time I have a strong perspective on what I think the right thing is for us as a business, but I don't have the authority necessarily to dictate that's what it should be. And so my ability to build trust and to become somebody who is able to persuade is really important in terms of doing my job effectively for the company. And so I think what we've learned is that we are able to continue to do that and to build trust and maintain relationships remotely. I think being vulnerable with our families around us has made everybody a lot more vulnerable and honest about the fact that we have these rich, full, well-rounded lives that I think a lot of us before this year sort of kept separate or mostly separate.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I think that sort of segmentation of our lives was how we all operated, and we had our childcare in place and our this and our that, and we had the offices and then the home life. But it's really interesting to hear you talking about sort of building trust, because a lot of people talk about the limitations of the way you and I are communicating right now, but actually in a way it opens all sorts of new possibilities about how people connect. I mean, I'm basically sitting in your kitchen right now and you're sitting in my bedroom. And how nice is that? And at some point my dog may start barking, or one of my kids will walk in or whatever, and you'll get to see even more of my world. And it's interesting that that's something that's never really happened before at such a scale in the professional world. We started to see beginnings of that in sort of, you know, the startup world and younger generations and so on, but this is quite dramatic in a way. So I guess the question is this the future, or will we simply just revert back to how it was?
Right. I mean, that's the question, right? I mean, I would like to think that there's a way for us to take what we've learned from this experience of connecting remotely and figure out ways to take the best parts of that, but also sort of integrate that back into us being able to be physically together. Because I do think there is something lost by not being able to get into a room with a bunch of people and physically look each other in the eye and work on solving these gnarly problems together, brainstorming out loud. I think there's a bit of creativity and building on each other's ideas that is definitely lost through working remotely. So I don't know, it'll be interesting to see whether businesses are able to sort of take the best parts of remote work and taking down those walls between the personal home life and the working life and the vulnerability that we've all shown each other with combined in a rational way with being together physically.
And So that, I guess that's sort of talking about how we sort of interact with each other and how we might evolve going forward. Do you see yourself lawyering differently in the way you approach legal issues and the nitty gritty of the things you handle, the matters you deal with?
So I don't think that my overarching philosophy of client service has changed, although I do find myself being much more thoughtful about where our customers, so we are a B2C business, right? So when I say customer, I mean our end user consumers. We definitely spend a lot more time thinking about our consumers and where they might be in this moment of time, whether it's coronavirus or Black Lives Matter. I think we all have a heightened thoughtfulness of the consumer and what they might be going through, and how we might be thinking about either customer support, customer experience. And then I think the other thing I think a lot about is the need to be much more proactive about reaching out and communicating with people, because when you're not in an office setting together, or you're not flying around to your teams and meeting with them for morning coffee or running into them in the kitchen for a snack, there's a lot that's lost in not being able to have those sort of unscheduled interactions. Mm-hmm. And so the need is that much greater now to be much more thoughtful, much more proactive about reaching out, whether it's the business clients or the people on your team or people on other teams, just really get a good sense of how everybody's doing and what their particular needs might be. Because otherwise, I think there's a risk of us becoming quite siloed. And that really reduces my ability to be as effective in counseling.
Amazing. So this has been great, Sarah. If I think about the things that have come through from the conversation we've just had, I've heard optimism, willingness to be vulnerable, thoughtfulness, conscious communication, which are all really powerful notions to guide us. So thank you for that. I have one last question for you. You've had your own journey. You've shared with us you're a mother. You're clearly a female lawyer. You have an ethnic background. You're clearly not mainstream white Anglo-Saxon, etc. And we haven't even delved into your own sort of family background. But lots of people are going to be watching you and listening to you, and they'll be on their own journey. So if you had any words of wisdom to share with them, what would those be?
That is a big question. And I would just say, I mean, I think, Ingrid, you and I are still on our journeys, right? It never ends. We certainly don't have all the answers, but I would say, the first thing I would say is, have confidence in yourself that you are capable. Back that up with competence. Be the very best that you can be in your subject area. Be super curious about your clients, their business. Understand what they care about, what they're worried about. Be proactive about connecting with people at all levels and all layers, and as much as you can, because the more you're connecting with people and learning about what they care about, the better you can do as their counselor. And then just never lose sight of the fact that, we're all humans and everybody's doing their best. I think some of the best leaders and lawyers I've ever worked with are not just incredible at what they do technically, but they've also maintained a sense of humility and an appreciation that they're never going to know all there is to know about anything, and that the whole purpose of groups of people coming together to build a business is that two heads are better than one, and everybody's got a different perspective, and you put those perspectives together and you debate, and hopefully you end up with a better result for everybody.
Wow. So I got 4 C's and 2 H's there. Confidence, competence, curiosity, connecting, humanity, and humility. That was amazing. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're
And I'm
doing
really
good.
looking forward to catching up soon. Take care.
Likewise. Thanks a lot.